What if I were to tell you that many of the world's worst disasters all began with a word of good advice? Would you believe me? Early 1900s. Many people were told, join. It'll be quick. It'll be an adventure. And you'll be remembered as a hero for centuries to come. Later on, that same conflict would become one of the most longest, most brutal, most bloodiest conflicts the world has ever seen. It'd become World War I. 1930s, Europe. Give him whatever he wants. If you do that, he'll for sure stop taking over more land, said many European advisors to European leaders when Hitler was taking over more of Europe. You would be dumb not to buy a house, said many bankers and financial advisors. And this led many people to buy a house that shouldn't even have bought a house in the first place. And this is what occurred and what made the 2008 housing crisis happen in the first place and led many people to go belly under financially. See, look, all of these people in all of these scenarios were giving good advice. They were smart people. But then how did all this go so wrong? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how this even occurs in the first place and what things and what steps you can take to actually avoid this happening. So why is it that we consider good advice in the first place? And this comes down to two main principles. The first is because most likely that person that's giving you that advice is going to be older than you. So we give them what we call wisdom. They've lived more of a life, so they have more experiences. And because they've lived more life and had more experiences, we give them more weight, more leverage in what they say, more power into what advice we take from them. And this leads to the second point. Most likely that person's giving you advice because they care about you. They want to see you succeed as much as you possibly can. Most of the time, people aren't going to give you advice because they're like, I just want to give you advice. They want to see you succeed. But because it comes from this area of, I want to see you succeed, from this positive mindset, we get into what's called a good Samaritan trap. And what that is because that person's coming at it from such this positive mindset, is that we almost let it streamline through all the areas that we should be validating it against our own life, against our own goals. So how can good advice be detrimental to your personal growth? Well, let's bring it back to that good Samaritan trap. Because that person's coming at it with such a good mindset, they want to see you succeed, it streamlines straight past everything you should be validating it against. And here are the things you should be validating it against. 1, do they have the same skills and attributes as you do? This person who you're talking to, they could be a great public speaker, but maybe you're not the best public speaker in the world. I know I'm not the best, but maybe you're good at writing scripts. Maybe you're good at writing code. So instead of taking that person's advice, the issue that happens is we take this advice and we try to stick it into our own path, even though we don't have the skills to attain it, or the attributes, or the abilities to. And this is what leads many people astray. The second one, not the same timelines. The advice that that person is giving you is most likely coming from an older timeline. that doesn't mean that we're in the same timeline now. We never are. So validate it against what's currently happening. Sure, history does repeat itself, so take it as it is. There is wisdom in that. But also realize that the things that are happening in your current timeline are likely to differ, and adjust it as so. The next thing I'd say, look at it from the perspective of their goals and your goals. Are their goals the same as yours? Like if they are a real estate mogul, or if they are a successful entrepreneur, or if they're a successful engineer, or any of that sort, is that the same or similar to your path? If the answer to that is no, most likely it is not good advice that you should be taking. Take it as it is, but don't just play something. If somebody is their whole entire life, they were going to go and become a pro golfer, and they became a pro golfer. And let's say you over here, you want to go become a lawyer. So you take what they said and then you put it over into your life, into your thing. You're trying to fit essentially a circle into a square hole. Sure, yeah, the circle fills that square up to an extent, but it doesn't match one for one. So again, go through. Does this align with your goal? If not, let it pass. So how can you filter good advice to make sure that it's good advice for you? First and most importantly, I would say look at the situation and the context that it's spoken in. See, just like how it was spoken, go join. It's going to be adventurous. It's going to be short, and you're going to be a hero for centuries. Look at the situation. Who's saying that? Have they been in a war? Have they seen what you're about to see? No. So take it with a grain of salt, because it most likely isn't going to be that. Or you should just give him whatever he wants. Sure. Had those advisors been in a similar situation? Yes, they had experience. They had wisdom on their side. But there was no moment of experience or wisdom to specifically deal with a man like Hitler was. Or that housing is going to keep on going up. It'd be stupid of you not to buy a house. Said the advisors and the bankers that that's all they've ever seen are house prices going up. Again, situation and context are extremely important when somebody's giving you advice. Take it with a grain of salt. And if all these people would have, and there were likely people in each of those scenarios that did, by the end of the day, they weren't heard. And it left many disasters in history. Next, I would say goals. Your goals, are they the same as the other person's? See, if your goals aren't the same, then why are you listening to this person? If they're over there, back to the pro golfer example, if they're a pro golfer and you want to be a lawyer, you can take it as words of insight, of philosophical insight. That's fine. But most likely, probably be a good idea not to take that at full face value and apply it to your goals directly. That just wouldn't make any sense. And then finally, is that advice making you grow, or is it making you comfortable? See, the best words of advice, and I'm sure you already know this, but I can't stress the importance of this, is if that advice is making you comfortable, then those are just kind words. That's not advice. But if those words are making you think about your life and your decisions and your actions and is making you grow, then that is advice. And take that as advice and use that as advice. So after doing all this research, it really made me curious into what is the definition of good advice. And I found this. Good advice is guidance or recommendation with care about your future. And I really like to highlight that word recommendation. See, it's a recommendation. That's what good advice is. You can take it or you can leave it. You can utilize it or you can just let it pass through and not affect your life at all. Just because somebody gives you advice doesn't mean you need to implement it or that you should implement it in your life or that it's the best advice. So, with that, comment down below what good advice you were given that actually turned out to be really bad and not helpful at all in your life. I'd really be interested to see some of your comments here, and I'll respond to as many down below as I possibly can.